Good morning, and I give all glory to God, and I welcome you all to this place of love and divine acceptance. As I've mentioned before, I'm sure you've heard that I've said we need to stop using the word sorry. So as a result, God wants you to know that love means never having to say that you're sorry. Eric Siegel said that, remember the movie? And he was right, because God loves you, and that is why you never have to say you're sorry to God, and God is in each one of us. If you love someone, relieve them of the need to apologize for anything, because the need for apology is a signal of a person who is mistaken about themselves. You cannot be damaged by another person. You can only imagine that you can. It's all in your head. It's all in your thoughts about it. So, constantly go back to love and give up your need to forgive others for anything you think they did to you. So the theme for this month is spiritual freedom, the month of July. And as we're ready to celebrate the 4th on Tuesday, Spirit gave me the title for this talk called The Kingdom of Freedom. So, kingdom to us usually means this vast land that's ruled by a king and a queen with lots of servants, usually called serfs. Therefore, we probably, when we think about it, have some old thoughts in our own mind that says, oh, I could not own a kingdom. But I ask you, are not each of you your own king and queen in your life? Are you not a god or a goddess? Do you not have authority over your own life and all the experiences that you have? Sure you do. And that's your kingdom, everything around you. The definition of kingdom is anything constituting an independent realm, such as the kingdom of thought. Who has authority over your realm of thoughts in you? How about the realm of emotions or the realm of actions in your life? You do, right? And you are the king and queen of your life, of your kingdom, of your realm all around you. And freedom is the theme of that kingdom. And who are the servants or the serfs in your kingdom? The thoughts that you have, the emotions that you feel, because you're in charge of that as well. I've mentioned before that one of the definitions of freedom is liberty from undesirable states of being. Let me say that again. Liberty from undesirable states of being. And I've told you how we need to be aware of those undesirable states of being, of thoughts and emotions that we have, the negativity, the ego thoughts, the fears that come up. And every time they do, they stop us from experiencing the present time emotions that we can connect to, which is Christ consciousness. I am consciousness. We have the opportunity to connect to that. So today I want to go over 8 steps that Spirit gave me about what freedom actually is. Number 1, freedom is conscious living or awareness of being. This means, first of all, that you have to be conscious of your life, not to be going around doing things unconsciously or run by other attitudes, which I want to talk about. It means about being aware of our own thoughts and our own emotions and how they guide us in our life. We have the statement, thought, word, and deed. We've heard of that, right? So we want to be aware of we have a thought that activates an emotion inside of us. We say a word that's based from that, and then we take action. But how often are we aware of those thoughts? How often are we aware of the words that we say? How about how often are we aware of some of the actions that we take in our life? It's always, for me, when I go out into the world to the store somewhere, and I'm walking around, I'm always thinking everybody's having thoughts. Don't we constantly have thoughts going on all the time? And how aware of we are they? How aware are we of them? Most of the time they're in our unconscious mind and they're tuned, and there's all these thoughts just going up into space all the time. And then there's words that come out of that and actions that come out of that. So when we look at those old thoughts and emotions, we might want to start thinking that maybe are we reacting to someone in our own life because of old pain that we're carrying around from our childhood? Usually those reactions happen because we have unresolved issues within us from our childhood. And then we have a relationship with somebody else that appears to be like our mother or our father or our brother or something, and there's a reaction that comes up because we haven't dealt with it in ourselves from our childhood. Has that ever happened to you? Of course. Somebody says something or somebody does something and you have a reaction and oh my God, we react like this is my mother, this is my father, or this is my sibling. So we still as humans go around with these old, unconscious, ego-based reactions to emotions, thoughts, emotions, words, actions. Conscious living, which is what this statement said, freedom is conscious living. So what that means is being aware of those old patterns, being aware of all those trigger points that we carry around inside of us that cause us to react in certain ways. This statement of conscious living also relates to the fact that we as a culture have been trained from an early age to do things. As I've talked about before, we have do, have, be, which we got to turn around. But we think that the more that we do things, we can accomplish something, or we're doing it right, or we're proving to somebody that we're okay because we're doing something. But we've got it all mixed up. We have to get to the beingness, which again, freedom is awareness of being, conscious living, being aware of how we are being in our lives. And the definition of being is the substance or the essence of an existing person. That means the core of who we are, how worthy we are, how lovable we are. Those sort of being, that's who we are. That's what we want to connect to more. Be the one that's connected to Source, to God. And our state of being definitely makes a difference in our life, because from being, then we do the doing. Are we being somebody from fear or somebody from love? So that therefore God can take care of the doing instead of us doing things unconsciously out of old fears, old beliefs, old thoughts. And those things not only affect us, but they affect the consciousness of the world, because we have a relationship with other people that is passed on to everybody around us. And everybody in this whole world has the same issues. We're either operating from love or fear. And the results of our lives come from those two. Our actions, our thoughts, our emotions, love or fear. So this means two things as far as being. We need to be more aware of who we're being every moment of the day. We have to wake up to how we're thinking, how we're acting. Not just do from trigger points. We have to be conscious of our thoughts, our emotions. We have to be aware of what patterns do we have that may still be operating inside of us, that we need to take personal control with. Not let it run us, but we're in charge. Not let the ego run us, but we're in charge. As I've said before, we want to be the CEO and put the ego as the secretary. Take notes. I'm in charge. Secondly, we need to be more aware of our essence, the truth of who we are. So we talk about, we know that we're created in the image and likeness of God here. We are one with Source. There's so much inside of us that is beautiful and wonderful. And that's our essence. That's our being. That's what we want to get expressed in the world. So a statement from the spiritual hierarchy says this: I am the soul. Why don't you repeat these after me? I am the soul.
I am the soul.
I am divine.
I am divine.
I am the mighty I am presence.
I am the mighty I am.
And I am God's will made manifest on earth.
I am God's will made manifest.
Those are the things we need to say more often. We need to be careful of those words that we say after I am. It's time for us to be conscious. That's what that first one says. Be aware of this. Find these statements within ourselves. That's freedom when we can do that, because that's actually expressing ourselves in this world in a positive way. So number 2, freedom is the ability to see life as progressing, and it doesn't matter what the past is. How important is that, to let it go of the past and be aware that we're moving forward step by step. And sometimes it feels like we fall backwards, and we go, okay, I did, but then I'm taking another step forward. Eventually, we get to where we're going by taking those forward steps. So what that means is life goes on for us no matter what happens. Let's say that you're somebody who's 19 years old and you lay in bed for 1 full year and don't do a productive thing. You're still going to turn 20, right? Same with if you're older, 87 years old, and you lay in bed for a year and you don't do anything. You're going to turn 88 eventually at the end of the year. Life goes on. Life progresses. Aging happens. All of that. And it all depends on how we connect to that. So a problem or an issue we have with it is that we carry stuff around us from the past like a big suitcase, carrying all this junk inside. And we judge our present situations based on that. We judge ourselves, we judge others based upon what we're still carrying inside of us. Or that's from the past. Or we go to the future and we go, oh God, if only this would happen, I'd feel so much better if I bought this right house, or if I did this, or if this happened, or if this person, if my spouse acted different. We think that that will change how we feel. But again, who's carrying around these issues and these problems from the past? We are. We have to be aware of them, beloveds. Those are the things that have to change, because those problems or those issues that we never got rid of become our stories. So we have stories that we want to tell people or make up ourselves. And then we find ourselves in a prison in our own mind, which put us there. You know, I've thought sometimes that we look at the guys, the men and women who are put into jail and prison, and we're going, are they different from us? No. We're all in prison of some sort. They've just manifested a physical aspect of it, but we still have a prison in our own mind. Old thoughts about ourselves, old beliefs. And so, maybe we could look at our lives as a workbook full of issues that we get to work on, problems to solve. We get to sit down, like in school, and go through this stuff and solve it and work on it. And if we do that, which of those provides more freedom? Getting caught up in the old stuff, or working on it and releasing them? So what this statement says is that we want to start waking up more. We want to see our life progressing forward. We want to let go of the past. We want to see that everything that happens to us comes to us from how we're thinking in that moment. And if we're not happy with how it's coming to us, this changes our thoughts. It's like going to school. Remember that? We went to different levels, started first grade, second, and we learned different lessons, didn't we? And sometimes those lessons happened over and over again until we got it. There was a little bit different in third grade than second grade, but still there were some similarities there, and the same with fourth and fifth and on. And it's the same for us. We have lessons that happen. We go, God, didn't I go through this before? Yes, here it is, but slightly different, because there's something we still need to learn about it. And the thing is, we look at it, we move to the next level, the next grade, we grow up inside ourselves, and our issues and our problems become harder, it seems. So did the lessons in school. But the thing about it is that it also means that our ability to solve them becomes greater. Our mind grows more. So that's what we want to look at, is that we've got to start letting go of those old childish beliefs and emotions and thoughts that we've held about ourselves. And know that we're growing up, that our mind is becoming stronger, that we're getting more tools to learn how to deal with the stuff in our life, and just say, great, this is what I'm learning, I let it go. I bless myself, and that's our freedom, learning the lesson and letting it go. Number 3, freedom is not being afraid to be afraid. Freedom is not being afraid to be afraid. Do you get that? So it's learning to face your fear. And we look at fear, as Course in Miracles says, false evidence appearing real. Or another one is forgetting everything is all right. If we looked at those two, it would really help us relate to our issues around fear a lot more. So, when it comes to fear, to be impeccable means to have a conscious understanding of our fears. Not to try to block them out, not try to hide them or judge them, but to really have a conscious understanding of it. And we can see that more clearly in external thoughts. For instance, if I have a thought that I'm afraid of heights, I'm not going to jump out of an airplane just to prove something to myself. And it's okay, I can say, I don't want to walk out in front of a car, I don't want to jump out of a plane, I don't want to do this, and I'm not wrong for that. But what about our internal fears? There's lots of times we put ourselves in positions or situations where other people don't support us. A relationship where we don't feel supported, or a job that we don't feel supported. And again, what that does is it activates a fear inside of us that comes from our childhood, something that we unconsciously react or relate to. It's important to know our fears. Before I talked about we have reactions to mother, father, siblings, whatever. Now we could look at reactions to, oh God, something's happening, I don't feel worthy, I feel wrong, I feel not good enough. All of those little negative statements. We have to know them so that we know whether they're our fears or somebody else's that we're taking on, which we don't want to do. We're taking on our mother's fear, our father's fears, or whatever. I remember growing up, I used to like to watch Sammy Davis Jr. on some of the music shows that he was on, but my mother, every time he came on, she would say these negative statements to him. And I started getting caught up with it and believing it. Until I was in the Navy and I was in Memphis, and he happened to come on, and I started to have this old thought that convinces, oh, here's that guy again. Just like my mother said. But I sat and watched him, and I went, wow, he's really good. And at that moment, I realized I've been carrying around my mother's belief about this person. How often do we all do that unconsciously? And it's a fear. So once we become aware of it and change it, then we release it. All those stuff that we took on from our family, let it go back to them. It's not who we are. And we have to connect to our own emotions, our own fears right now. So since we know that fear is the opposite of love, we want to be able to see the love in the fear. Can you get that? We have to look at the love and the fear. To love it means to embrace the fear, to feel it, to not judge it, and then breathe it out of you. That's a form of love. That's how we love our judgments about ourselves and one another. And maybe we could ask these questions. Where can I find value in it? What teaching did this fear bring to me? What can I love in the fear so that I can bless it and release it so I don't hold on to it? And if you cannot find a thing to love in a fear, then either you're not ready to face it or it's not yours. Isn't that great to know? That's where freedom can come into, by knowing whether it's your fear or somebody else's fear. Freedom is being fully engaged without attachment, number 4. This, of course, means to engage in anything in life without being attached to the outcome. When we are attached, we put ourselves in a prison because we're connected to it, whether we want to be there or not. And mostly what I'm talking about is love. To be able to love one another, to love ourselves, to love our life and our experiences without any expectation of what may come back to us. And I shared that last Sunday in part of the talk about relationships, that we don't need to be attached to the person in the relationship thinking that somehow they're going to make us feel better. We need to feel that ourselves. We need to bring the whole totality of ourselves into any relationship. And if that other person does, then we don't have that stuff of our childhood, that need, that attachment that I have to feel good around you, by you. Because that expectation is like a cord. If we could visualize a cord, and I've done work with other people where we've had to clear out that cord. I had to do it from my childhood. It's an energetic thing. It's really there. And it's attached to another person so that when we're around them, this energy flows out between us and it keeps us in an old place. You ever experienced that? So we want to know that this cord ties us to the person, ties us to the experience, and we have to let it go. But we say things like, well, I'll do this for you. And we have an expectation that as I do it, you'll do something back for me, like love me more, or care for me more, or you'll do this the next time I want something. We have this expectation. So we sacrifice ourselves to do something that we don't really want to do. And when it happens, and I've talked about this before, it's called the wheel of sacrifice. So we sacrifice, we give in, and we do something for somebody because we expect something. And then we don't get it. What happens then, down at the bottom, we get angry. And then we're angry for a while and we move into something else. Anybody know what that is?
Resentment.
Nope. Guilt. Oh God, I've got anger. Resentment could be underneath of resentment could be underneath of anger, actually. So then we get into guilt. Oh God, I got angry at this person, at my parent or my child or something. I didn't really need to. I'm guilty. And we feel that for a little while, and then we'll do anything not to feel guilty. We'll even sacrifice ourselves again. And so we keep going around and around in this wheel. But the answer to that is to get out of feeling guilty for yourself. There's nothing to feel guilty about. We have our beliefs, we have our thoughts. We just need to be aware of them. And we need to be engaged in love. To do and be love because we want to, not because we feel like we have to, because we're attached. So what does fully engaged mean? It means to open something with all your attention and intention. to do something with all your attention and intention. Think about that. Or to open up your heart to experience love, no matter how many times you've been hurt or felt pain inside around it, you want to keep doing it. To focus your thoughts on the I am presence, on the spiritual thoughts, on the Christed thoughts, not the fear ones, to let them go. And maybe to be engaged is to be in your car on the freeway of life, moving freely and excitedly and fully engaged. Anybody remember Dag Hammarskjöld? I hope I got his name right. He used to be the past director of the United Nations back when I was in high school. I remember him, Dag Hammarskjöld. He said this, a prayer of affirmation. To everything that has been, thanks. For everything that will be, yes. How about that? How simple. For everything that has been, thanks. For everything that will be, yes. So I have 5, 6, 7, about 4 more of these statements of freedom, but we're moving forward. So I think what I'll do is stop now and share this next week and keep you thinking about this. So remember, we're celebrating freedom. And that's taken inside of ourselves, beloved. It's to know that we can choose to be free of our thoughts, our emotions, our actions. Those are the things that guide us, so that we feel free when we're around anybody and everybody in our lives. Wouldn't that be better than feeling unfree, or that we're stuck, or we have to do something to fight for our freedom when it's already inside of us? So on that note, I say namaste.
Namaste.